Here I will show and tell you about my father's health, conditions of his home, and the conditions of his property. Upon my arrival at 9000 Kennedy Lane, my family's home, late 2017. Mom passed away Christmas 2016. Her death permanently separated Melanie and I. Melanie stayed at Dad's for a short time after Mom passed away. She eventually began the relationship with Mark. When Kyle and I moved to my dad's, it was late 2017. Dad had been alone for an unknown length of time, and when we arrived, we discovered my dad well into Alzheimer's disease. His appearance was very rough looking, and he would occasionally develop sores, which he picked until they bled. He often claimed he was talking to dead relatives, and one day called 911 on Kyle for hitting a tree with a tree branch. He told the operator the tree outside told him to do it. His diet at that time consisted of Marie Callender's pot pies. Upon arrival, he didn't remember me. He did not know Kyle at all, or even that I had a 10-year-old son. With many years of cigarette smoking and little upkeep, on the interior, the walls were nicotine soaked, to the point that the nicotine was peeling the paint from the wall. The yard outside was overgrown, and the Hall Ave property was being taken over. At the time, I thought by nature. Later, I would learn differently. Over the next almost 2 years, Kyle and some friends, myself, were able to get the house and the property back looking good as per my dad's wishes. Some of those tasks included my dad's dislike for the four-wheelers and stopping the vandalism to the Hall Ave property, meeting with Uncle Frank, posting no trespassing signs, clearing the private road, removing fallen trees in the yard, repairing the front steps and porch, and painting. Now, when school began, fall of 2018, Kyle was enrolled in Canastota School. The bus made an exception to stop close to my dad's house at Debbie's Diner, which was in the town of Sullivan. Chittenango School District, of course, town of Sullivan. However, doing well with Dad, and that he loved Kyle and I being there, I, right afterwards, had made a visit to Chittenango School, as I was going to transfer Kyle and live permanently at my father's house and to take care of him. However, in March 2019, out of the blue, Melanie arrived at Dad's house. Later, you may find a possible why for the move to Dad's house, but for now, that's when her abuse began. First of Kyle and I, threats and horrible actions committed by her came almost non-stop. I mean, until the point we were forced to relocate and back to Canastota. When we relocated back to Canastota, she then turned her attention, you see, to Dad. So here, I would like to explore 3 possible motives or logic for the epic events that have occurred in repeat over the last few years that escalated into a will being changed and had residual effects for over 2 calendar years affects that for 2 years, a child wasn't allowed to see his only living grandparent. A son wasn't allowed to see his last surviving parent, and for the last 2 years, his parent was alive. And now a court case. You can't force me to believe that a man who didn't know his name, who didn't know his son's name, who had full on dementia, that one day, the day after, before Melanie's birthday, in fact, and not long after Kyle and I was forced out, that he randomly decided to say, hey, I think today I'll go change my will, disinherit my son, give everything to Melanie. Nah, I really don't think so. I think perhaps we should discuss some motives, shall we? Rest in peace, Dad. So for a person to commit a crime, most people have a motive. You see, a reason to motivate them to carry out the crime. I think there are 3 possible motives for Melanie to have taken advantage of another person's health and to force their hand by way of threat, abuse, or violence to commit actions they would not normally be doing. My objections to this are not of sound and disposing mind, dementia, and undue influence, forcing actions by way of abuse, violence, and such. Motive 1, backdoor deals with unrelated individuals concerning property, money, or assets of the deceased. Possibly connected, yes. Complete motive, no. Motive 2, well, that would be myself. It's true she has every reason to dislike me, yes. It's true I openly and publicly blame her for our mother's untimely death, which gives her even more reason to force our father's hand to disinherit me. But is it total motive for her actions? For this answer, I'm not so sure, and I'll tell you why. Motive 3, extreme domestic violence over an extended amount of time. Mental health issues with men and learned violent behavior. You see, with our mother's death in 2016 and a violent multi-year relationship following that, maybe Melanie returned to our unhealthy father's house and applied some learned behavior. Let's look deeper. Before explaining surrogate court, my son Kyle was cleared of seizures and epileptic activity end of 2017. Paperwork had not yet arrived by the time of school start, so the beginning of school year 2018, school nurse files CPS report. The report was for a very serious neglect charge, not administering required medication for a life-threatening medical condition. The investigator performed her job very poorly. The report was indicated for neglect, and family court was planned. I sent paperwork to Albany contesting the report. They sent back very negative replies. They denied reversing the report, and shortly thereafter I received a citation to appear in court. It was a week before court, and after a few more letters sent to Albany, that I received a phone call. It was Julie Jones herself who called me personally, lawyer for social services. She said, "Come in tomorrow, we need to talk." When I went the following day to meet with her, she asked me to sign a paper to not appear in court. She apologized for social services actions She also reversed the indicated child abuse report.